Hey Lorenzo, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure.
Lorenzo, first of all, as a person who grew up in the 90s, it was actually really fun to see the elements there.
Mhm.
And I was wondering, if you would actually make a Transformers movie, set in the time you grew up, what are all the elements that you would expect to be in such a Transformers movie?
Well, that's an interesting question. Well, I grew up through the anti-war movement in Vietnam, so I grew up on a college campus, so I was always exposed as a kid to whatever the social issues of the time. So I suppose the Transformers would probably be marching with Martin Luther King and
Oh,
I think they would be very supportive of what was going on back then. A lot of colorful clothing, so that would be, that'd be interesting to add to the mix.
you could make like the Transformers, the colors, right?
Exactly, or bell-bottom jeans.
Yeah, right. Lorenzo, I love that, with Elena, you actually have created a very interesting character because she's so much into history and she's curious. She wants to find out everything. And she's even willing to risk her job in order to find out some history. And I
Yes.
was wondering because I feel like that a lot of people, unfortunately, kind of lose their sense of curiosity with time. And I was
Mhm.
wondering, how do you make sure that you keep actually your curiosity alive, especially as a filmmaker?
I'm lucky. I am curious, and I've traveled the world since I was a little boy. So I've had that experience of the cultural impact of going to new places and seeing new things. And so that keeps me curious. I love stories. I just really do. So that always is interesting to me. In fact, sometimes that for me is the most fun time period is when you're actually crafting what you're going to do and how you're going to do it for a movie. And so and I think when you keep that curiosity, you keep young. So I think, or at least a young mind. Not that young, but I got a young mind.
It's very interesting because very often, when there are movies with non-human title characters,
Mhm.
uh, very often filmmakers forget about the human characters because they go like, okay, this is like about this creature or about this, and people expect this to appear. So
Yes.
the human characters become side characters. And I was so pleased to see that in your movie. This is
Mhm.
so not the case. It really is about the people, their journey, and their motivations and everything. And I was wondering, so when you make a movie, like Transformers, how difficult can it be at times to make sure that the human characters are going to be equally as interesting and exciting like the Autobots?
Well, it is hard when you think about the Autobots are as tall as 35 feet and giant,
Right.
and we don't have those in our lives. It is hard for the human characters to compete. So this time we decided that we would start with the character arcs of the humans to build in um, really the emotional ride of the movie is on both the Dominic's character and on Anthony's character. So that started the process. And then along the way, we realized that we've never done a character arc for Optimus, for any of the robots, really. So Optimus has a real character arc in here. And I think what happened was, as it evolved, this idea of the character arcs, particularly of Anthony and Optimus, they're in conflict. So it keeps the human character at the same level as the Transformers character. They're feeling the same thing in their own way. They don't match. And so the culmination of that when they unite feels really satisfying and also tells you that those two characters have existed on the same plane. I think at the same time also we've worked really hard to it's very hard. These 5 6 foot humans. How can they be essential to the action? And so in Dominic's case, she's the brains in a sense, right? She's the one who figures out essentially becomes an integral piece in trying to stop our villains. Anthony's character goes, is holding on, is really playing the role of someone who is a protector, who is going through the emotional experience of that. And then ultimately we give him some change, which allows to have him fight on a, if not an equal plane, he has something formidable to offer.
Absolutely, so true. Seriously, Lorenzo, I want to thank you so much for your time, for sharing your thoughts today, and obviously all the best with Transformers.
Yes, thank you. See you later.